The assembly hall at the Global Defense Initiative headquarters had never been this crowded. Representatives from 40 nations stood in formal rows, their most decorated generals and elite warriors positioned at the front like prizes on display. Above them, suspended in the air through technology that still made most humans uneasy, floated the delegation from the Etherian Empire. And at the center of that delegation, radiating authority that needed no translation, stood Princess Kaisera Vas Luminar. She was tall, nearly 8 feet, with skin that seemed to contain entire galaxies, shifting between deep purple and midnight blue with constellations of bioluminescent points that moved across her surface like living stars. Her eyes were pure silver, reflective, and unreadable. 4 arms, each ending in elegant 6-fingered hands, were folded in a pose that managed to seem both regal and relaxed. The crown fused to her skull wasn't metal. It was living crystal that pulsed with inner light. Lieutenant Marcus Webb stood in the back row, trying not to feel completely out of place. At 19, he was the youngest person in the hall by at least 5 years. He'd only been admitted to the GDI Warrior program 6 months ago, graduating basic training 3 weeks before the Etherian delegation arrived with their impossible request. Earth must send a champion to fight in the Convergence War, an intergalactic conflict between the Etherian Empire and the Voidborn Collective. In exchange, Earth would receive technology and protection, refuse, and humanity would face the collective alone when they inevitably turned their attention to this sector. The choice wasn't really a choice at all. She will select from among your finest, the Etherian ambassador had explained. Warriors of proven strength, tactical brilliance, and unbreakable will. The champion will be bound to Princess Kaisera according to our most ancient laws, becoming her sworn protector and weapon in the war to come. Which was why every legendary general, decorated special forces operator, and championship martial artist on Earth was currently standing at attention, trying to look simultaneously dangerous and worthy. Marcus had only been included because protocol required all active GDI warriors to attend. Nobody expected her to even look at someone from the back row. Princess Kaisera descended from her floating platform with fluid grace that made gravity look optional. She moved past the front row, past General Zhao with his 40 years of combat experience, past Commander Okonkwo, who'd never lost a tactical engagement, past Master Riznik, who could kill a person 17 different ways with her bare hands. Her silver eyes scanned each warrior with inhuman precision, reading something in their stances or souls or biology that humans couldn't perceive. Several warriors straightened under her gaze. A few actually trembled. Then she walked past all of them. The crowd murmured in confusion as the princess moved through the assembly, her 4 arms moving in patterns that might have been dismissal or assessment. She passed decorated veterans, celebrated tacticians, warriors who'd trained their entire lives for moments like this, and stopped directly in front of Marcus. He froze. Up close, she was even more alien. Her skin wasn't just containing stars, it was creating them, entire miniature galaxies being born and dying across her surface in accelerated time. Her scent was ozone and something floral he couldn't identify, and her eyes, fixed on him with laser focus, seemed to see through skin and bone to something underneath. "You," she said, her voice carrying across the silent hall despite being barely above a whisper. "What is your designation?" Lieutenant Marcus Webb, ma'am, Your Highness, your Radiance." He had no idea what honorific to use for an alien princess. "Age, 19 standard years." A ripple went through the assembly. 19 was barely adult by human standards, impossibly young for the kind of champion everyone expected her to choose. "Combat experience, 6 months training, no active deployments." Marcus felt his face burning. I'm actually just here for protocol, Your Radiance." "The real warriors are? Step forward." It wasn't a request. Marcus stepped forward on instinct, military training overriding his confusion. Kaisera circled him slowly, all 4 hands moving in complex patterns. She was reading something, his biosignature, his neural patterns, something invisible but apparently significant. When she completed the circle, she placed one hand on his shoulder. The touch sent electricity through his entire body. "This one," she announced, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall. "This human is bound to me. He is my chosen champion, my sworn protector, my weapon in the war to come. By the ancient laws of the Etherian Empire, he cannot be taken from me. He cannot refuse without dishonor. He is mine, and I am his guardian until death or victory releases us both." The hall erupted. "Your Highness, there must be some mistake." The GDI director pushed forward. "He's untested, barely trained. We have warriors with decades of, I have chosen." Kaisera's voice cut through the protests like a blade. "The binding is complete. To challenge it is to challenge the Etherian Empire itself. Do you wish to void our agreement?" The director's face went pale. "No, Your Highness, but perhaps if you explain the selection criteria." "I do not explain, I choose." She looked down at Marcus, who was still standing frozen under her hand. "You will come with me. Training begins immediately." "I." "Yes, Your Highness." As Etherian guards moved forward to escort them out, Marcus caught sight of the other warriors' faces. Confusion, anger, envy, and from a few of the older ones, something that looked almost like pity. He was about to find out why. The Etherian vessel was called the Sovereign Dawn, and it was the size of a small city. Marcus's quarters were larger than his family's entire apartment back in Detroit, decorated with materials he couldn't identify and furnished with technology that responded to thoughts he hadn't voiced yet. But he wasn't there to sightsee. "Up!" The training master, a 4-armed warrior named Vector who made Marcus feel like an insect, barked the command for the 100th time. "A bound champion does not yield, does not falter, does not disgrace his princess through weakness." Marcus pushed himself up from the training mat, tasting blood. They'd been sparring for 3 hours. He'd been knocked down approximately 300 times. His body was a constellation of bruises, and he was pretty sure at least 2 ribs were cracked. "Again!" Vector moved, faster than human eyes could track. Marcus tried to counter using the techniques he'd learned in basic training. He might as well have been moving through mud. Vector's strike took him in the solar plexus and put him back on the mat. "Pathetic." The training master's contempt was palpable. "The princess chooses a human child, and I am to forge him into a weapon worthy of the Convergence War? Impossible. Better to select a new champion before we waste more time. The binding cannot be broken." Princess Kaisera's voice came from the observation platform above the training arena. She'd been watching, silent, for the entire 3 hours. "He is mine. You will train him, Vector, or I will find someone who can." The training master bowed stiffly. "As you command, Highness." After Vector dismissed him, Marcus limped to the medical bay where Etherian technology could heal his injuries in minutes instead of weeks. The process was painless but left him exhausted. He was lying on the medical platform, staring at the ceiling that displayed real-time views of stars streaming past, when the door opened. Princess Kaisera entered alone, without the usual retinue of guards and advisors. Up close, without the formal trappings of court, she seemed almost uncertain. "You performed adequately," she said. Marcus laughed, then winced as his healing ribs protested. "That's the kindest way anyone's ever said I got my ass kicked, Your Highness. You survived 3 hours against Vector. Most untrained humans would have suffered critical injury within minutes." She moved closer, her constellation skin casting shifting shadows across the medical bay. "Your resilience is notable. Why me?" The question had been burning in Marcus's mind since the assembly hall. "I'm nobody, barely trained. There were legends in that room, people who have spent their entire lives preparing for combat. Why choose the weakest person there?" Kaisera was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer than he'd heard before. "Because the strongest warriors are not always the most necessary ones. Because combat prowess means nothing if the soul beneath it is incompatible with the task required. Because—" She paused. "Because when I read your essence, I saw something that none of the others possessed. Something that has been lost among my people for generations. Something that might be the key to ending this war." "What?" "I do not yet know, but I felt it. A resonance between your life force and the ancient power that created the binding laws. A connection that should not be possible between human and Etherian, but exists nonetheless." She placed one hand over his chest, and he felt that electricity again, stronger this time, making his heart skip. "You are not weak, Marcus Webb. You are simply not yet awakened to what you are." Before he could respond, alarms shrieked through the ship. Kaisera's demeanor shifted instantly from contemplative to command. "Assassins, they're aboard." "Who?" "Rivals who believe you are unworthy. Political enemies who see your binding as insult to Etherian pride. Take your pick." She pulled him off the medical platform. "Can you fight?" "I can try. That will have to suffice." She pressed something into his hand, a blade that activated at his touch, extending into a weapon that felt perfectly weighted despite being alien technology. "Stay close. Do not attempt heroics. Your purpose is to survive, not to prove yourself." They moved into the corridor just as the first assassin struck. It was Etherian, one of the warrior caste, judging by the armor, and it moved with the same impossible speed as Vector. Marcus saw the blade coming for the princess's back and moved on pure instinct. He shouldn't have been fast enough. His training was too recent, his body too human, his reflexes too slow. But when he threw himself between Kaisera and the assassin, something ignited in his chest. The same electricity he'd felt at her touch, but exponentially stronger. His body moved faster than thought, the alien blade in his hand intercepting the assassin's strike with perfect precision. The assassin's eyes widened in shock. "Impossible. He's human. He can't access the resonance." "Apparently he can." Kaisera's voice was tight with something that might have been vindication. "Marcus, let it flow. Don't think. Just feel." Marcus didn't understand, but he didn't need to. The power flooding through him had its own intelligence, guiding his movements in ways his conscious mind couldn't process. He ducked the assassin's follow-up strike, countered with a pattern he'd never learned, and drove his blade through a gap in the armor that he shouldn't have known existed. The assassin collapsed. Marcus stood over the body, breathing hard, staring at his hands like they belonged to someone else. What the hell was that? The binding. Kaisera was looking at him with an expression he couldn't read. It is not merely ceremonial. When an Etherian royal binds a champion, they create a connection that allows the champion to draw on the royal's power reserves. It is meant to enhance already formidable warriors. But with you, she trailed off. With you, it does something different, something unprecedented. More alarms, more assassins incoming. No time for analysis. Kaisera drew her own weapons, twin blades that hummed with energy. We need to reach the throne chamber. There are defenses there that even assassins will not dare breach. They ran through corridors that shifted and changed, the ship's architecture responding to the princess's needs. Twice more they encountered assassins. Each time Marcus felt that power surged through him, guiding his movements, making him faster and stronger and more aware than any human should be. By the time they reached the throne chamber, he was covered in alien blood and completely exhausted. The doors sealed behind them with a sound like finality. "You saved my life," Kaisera said, "3 times. You're welcome." Marcus wasn't sure of the protocol. A bound champion is supposed to protect their royal, but the power you displayed, that level of resonance shouldn't be possible for a human, shouldn't be possible for most Etherians, honestly. She moved closer, studying him with those reflective silver eyes. "I chose you because I felt something, a potential, but I did not expect it to manifest this quickly, this powerfully." "What does it mean?" "It means," a new voice said from the shadows of the throne chamber, "that the prophecies were true." An elderly Etherian emerged, smaller than Kaisera, with skin that had faded to pale blue and constellations that barely glowed. But the authority radiating from them was absolute. "Grandmother," Kaisera bowed, "I did not know you were aboard. I came when I heard you had bound a human. I needed to see if the bloodlines remembered what we have forgotten." The elder approached Marcus, reaching out to touch his forehead. "Yes, there it is, the mark of the first ones, diluted through countless generations, weakened by time and genetic drift, but present nonetheless." "I don't understand," Marcus said. "Humans and Etherians share a common ancestor," the elder explained. "Billions of years ago, before either species existed in their current form, there was another civilization, the first ones. They seeded life across this galaxy, and their genetic legacy persists in both our peoples. But in humans, it has remained dormant, latent, until a binding activates it," Kaisera finished. "That's why none of the warriors I examined had what I was looking for. They were too trained, too specialized, too refined into pure human potential. But Marcus, young, unformed, still carrying the raw genetic potential, he had the first one's mark still viable in his DNA. The elder nodded. "The binding has awakened it. With training, he could access powers that we Etherians lost millennia ago, powers that could turn the tide of the Convergence War. Or get him killed when other species discover what he is," Kaisera said quietly. "That too." The elder looked at Marcus. "The Convergence tournament begins in 3 weeks. 16 species will send their champions to fight for the right to command Alliance resources. They will all be trying to kill you, either to prove humanity unworthy or to eliminate a potential threat before you master your abilities. Can you be ready?" Marcus thought about the last 4 hours, the training that had nearly broken him. The assassins he'd fought through power he didn't understand. The alien princess who'd seen something in him that he'd never seen in himself. "I'll have to be," he said. Kaisera's hand found his shoulder, the now familiar touch that sent electricity through his system. You will not face it alone. The binding goes both ways. My power flows through you, yes, but your potential. I can feel it now, Marcus. A well of strength deeper than any Etherian royal has accessed in living memory. Together, we might actually survive this. Together, Marcus agreed. The elder smiled. Then let us begin your true training. The tournament will not wait for you to be ready, so we must make you ready with the time we have. And Marcus Webb, the ancient eyes locked onto his. The princess did not just choose you for what you are. She chose you for what you will become. Do not disappoint her. Over the next 3 weeks, Marcus learned what it meant to be bound to a princess of the Etherian Empire. The training was brutal. 16 hours a day of combat practice, energy manipulation, meditation to deepen the resonance connection, and tactical studies of the 15 other species he'd face in the tournament. Vector pushed him to and past his breaking point daily. The resonance power that flowed through his binding with Kaisera grew stronger, more controlled, until he could move with speed that made his instructors nod in grudging approval. But it was the time with the princess herself that changed him most. She taught him the history of the Convergence War, how the Voidborn Collective sought to consume all organic life and convert it to their hive mind intelligence. How the Etherian Empire stood as the primary resistance, holding the line while smaller civilizations cowered or collaborated. How this tournament would determine which species received the bulk of Alliance military support, effectively deciding who survived and who fell to the Collective's advance. Earth is on the Collective's target list, Kaisera told him during one late-night strategy session. Not immediately, but within 5 years. If we win the tournament, humanity receives technology and protection to prepare. If we lose, your people will face the Voidborn unprepared and alone. No pressure then, Marcus said. Precisely, but her expression softened. I would not have chosen you if I did not believe you capable. The binding does not lie. It recognized in you something essential. Trust it, Marcus. Trust yourself. He wanted to. But as the tournament's opening ceremony approached and he saw the other champions, towering warriors from species that had been fighting interstellar wars while humanity was still learning to make fire, doubt crept in. The tournament grounds on Convergence Station were massive. 16 arenas, each designed to challenge different combat styles. Hundreds of thousands of spectators from across the galaxy. And at the center, the grand arena where the final matches would take place. Marcus stood beside Kaisera in the ceremonial entrance, wearing armor the Etherian artificers had crafted specifically for him. It was light, flexible, and incorporated technology that would amplify his resonance powers. In his hands, twin blades hummed with energy. Remember, Kaisera said quietly as they waited for their entrance to be announced. You carry the honor of 2 species now, human and Etherian. Whatever happens in that arena, fight with everything you are. To show them that the youngest warrior can stand against the galaxy's finest. And if I can't, she placed 2 of her hands on his shoulders, leaning down so their foreheads nearly touched. Then we fall together, and at least we will have fought with truth and courage. But Marcus, her silver eyes held his. I do not believe you will fail. The binding showed me your potential. Now show everyone else. The announcer's voice boomed across the station. Princess Kaisera, vast luminar of the Etherian Empire, and her bound champion, the human Marcus Webb. They entered the grand arena together, and the crowd's reaction was deafening. Some cheered, Etherians proud of their princess, a few humans who traveled to watch their species' representative. But more jeered, laughed, called out insults in languages Marcus didn't speak but whose meaning was unmistakable. The youngest champion, the weakest species. The political stunt that would be eliminated in the first round. Marcus looked up at the thousands of alien faces, felt the weight of their contempt and doubt, and let the resonance flow through him. The power that connected him to Kaisera, to the ancient legacy of the first ones, to something greater than any individual warrior. His armor began to glow, faint at first, then brighter, constellations forming across his chest in mirror of the princess's own skin. The jeering quieted. "Let them doubt," Marcus said, loud enough for the nearest cameras to pick up. "Let them laugh, let them think humanity is weak and unworthy, but when the tournament ends and I'm still standing," he raised his blades in salute to the watching galaxy. "They'll know better." Kaisera's hand found his, 4 fingers wrapping around 5 in a gesture that would be broadcast across 100 worlds. "Together," she said. "Together," he agreed. The first match began in 3 hours. Marcus Webb, 19 years old, youngest warrior ever bound to an alien royal, was about to prove why the princess had chosen him. Or die trying. The galaxy was watching. And somewhere in the depths of space, the Voidborn Collective watched too, and calculated the threat this human represented. The war was just beginning.